We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. I'm excited today. My name is Donna Blake-Weems. I'm the Executive Director at ISMTE. And today I welcome representatives from Origin Editorial and Origin Reports. Today we're going to be talking about making reporting easy, fast and accurate, an introduction to Origin Reports. Just a quick reminder to everyone again that we will be recording this session. Everyone will be asked to stay off camera and muted, but you will be able to turn on your mics later on for discussion. All right, so Sherry, Jason, take it away.
Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for coming along today. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we'll give you a little window into Origin Reports, which is something that you can all use. And so I'm going to just introduce the tool, and then I'm going to introduce my colleague Sherry, who is going to actually, well, we're going to do a little video that you can see, of a product tour video, and then Sherry and I will take your questions afterwards. Just before I get going, I'd like to thank ISMTE for letting us do this product theatre today. This is a kind of a novel concept for them, and it is for us too. So looking forward to doing this. So first of all, who are we? We are Origin Editorial, and some of you know us, some of you don't. If you don't know us, we run a peer review management company. We're scattered across the globe, predominantly in North America, but we are in Europe and Asia too. And we originally built what you're about to see, Origin Reports, for our own benefit, because like many of you, I suspect, reporting is time consuming. It's often hard to do. It's not always accurate, and and it's certainly not consistent over time. So what we did was we built a tool and then realized, my goodness, I think everyone else could benefit from this. So just to reassure, we built this privately and independently. We built it on our own dime, and what you see is the product of editorial office professionals like myself and Sherry, teaming up with professional programmers and building a tool that is a web-based browser. Just so our disclosures are out there. So Origin Editorial receives funds from a variety of societies that own journals, and in some instances from publishers as well. So that's how we make our living. So what is Origin Reports? Origin Reports is a browser-based tool for all editorial office reporting. So there's no software you download. You can use this in Chrome. We recommend Chrome. You can use it in other browsers as well. And it is an accurate and visually appealing, visually appealing chart. That's what the aim is to try and produce, and tables as well. But as you often try to generate your Excel chart, you get so far along just trying to get the data right. By the time you get to the chart, you just use the basic bar chart. We have all of that too, if you want basic bar charts, but we can also offer so much more, more visually interesting ways to present data, but not just trying to make things pretty. And you have some control over that as well, by the way, which Sherry will show you. But also sometimes if you design charts in a certain way, it actually reveals more information than you might have initially conceived of. You might be able to read a third parameter, time, date, and volume, or something like that. So let's we'll have a look at that in a second, but let's just also consider, what do you do when you report right now? You actually probably take data out of your editorial management system and you probably put it into Excel. I'm guessing that's pretty much what most of you do. Some of you may use the reports that those systems provide to generate a chart. You can generate a table, but I suspect that might be beyond our capabilities, but we're maybe more familiar with Excel. Well, Excel also requires some degree of knowledge, and I've gone to ISMTE for many years and talked to people about reporting, and I know many ISMTE members don't know how to use a pivot table. Well, if you can't do that, then there's a lot of data analysis that you simply cannot do. So you don't need to worry about any of that with Origin Reports. It literally will generate the report for you. You tell it what it is that you're wanting the report you're trying to generate. It will do all the hard work for you. And the beauty of it is, it does it in seconds. In fact, it does it in far less time than this rambling presentation that I'm giving so far. It is lightning fast. And that was another reason why we did this, because we simply don't have the time to be massaging data in Excel to then generate a pivot table. So that it removes the barriers to effective reporting. So many journals simply don't report because, or report maybe just once a year, because it is too hard to do. Again, many of us, have a non-scientific or non-mathematical background, and maybe we haven't done statistics since high school, I don't know. So we find this scary. We're removing all of that as well as a barrier. We take care of that. And indeed, down the road, Origin reports will do even more complex statistics. So if you're really into your standard deviations and whatnot, now we have some comparative analysis like that on its way. That'll be ready in 2022. But if you're really into your bell curves as well and box and whisker plots, that's already in development. In fact, I think we may even have a couple of box and whisker plots. So the whole reason for doing this, apart from being faster and more accurate, is that you can spend more time on analysis. You're not exhausted at the end of the data generation and manipulation process. You're now able to put your creative energies into thinking, what is the data telling me? Okay. And again, these reports were designed by editorial office professionals. So we actually know what it is that you want to report. And so we've designed them with that in mind. We also created this to standardize the presentation of data. So Origin gets to see inside many journal editorial offices, and we inherit a lot of reports. And there is no one way of doing things. And that's fine. But ideally, there could be some element of the standardization, and that would make comparisons easier. I mean, we find small societies that have more than one journal, that you can't even compare across those journals because each journal's done something differently. So this helps facilitate standardization. So it removes the time burden. We think it's more comprehensive and accurate because you will see that there's this ability to turn on and off what data points you want to see. So you could filter out, let's say you want to find out time to initial decision. Well, you might not want to include immediate rejects or immediate accepts. So that is literally a button click and all of those data points are removed. So that helps clean up your data as well, and the fact that the filter is there prompts you to think, oh yeah, maybe I don't want to include that. Equally, sometimes when you just generate data and output it into Excel, you just take your 500 lines of data or whatever you have and you just start working with it. You don't think maybe I need to exclude some things. So really, truly there is no need for Excel. If you don't like the look of our tables, you can output them as CSV files and put them straight into Excel. If you prefer to do it that way, that's absolutely fine. We'll give you that freedom. One of the best things of all, though, is that you can save all your report parameters. And so that when you come back to do this again in the future, we don't save your data, we just save the parameters. So if we knew, like in that example I just gave you, that you want to exclude immediate decisions from your time to first decision, you can build your report so that will always happen. So you don't have to keep doing that each time you go in. So on every quarter when you want to do your latest data analysis, don't need to worry about that. If you want to make it so that it matches your journal color, the color of the bar, you can set that once and never need to change it again. And that's great as well for if you've got staff that move over, staff turnover, whatever, when the next person comes in, they're not trying to think, how the heck did they generate those numbers last time? That doesn't happen. And like I said before, we're also trying to do new ways of displaying data. And I revealed at ISMTE and at CSE a couple of years ago an editor bubble chart, which you'll see today. And that's a classic example of what I mean, is that you had time on the x-axis, the rejection rate on the y-axis, and the size of the bubble. And each editor had a bubble reflected the number of papers they handled. So all of that is in the table as well. That's great. But sometimes you just want to visually see, where are people? Where are they scattered? If somebody's in the top left corner, does that mean that means that they're fast and they're rejecting a lot? And if they have a big bubble, it means they had a lot of papers. This is what I mean. We're trying to create reports that make analysis easier for you so that you can either dig deeper or explain away why something else is happening at your journal. So how does it work? Well, right now, you would, depending on the system, it doesn't depend on the system. You extract 2 data reports. One is for manuscripts and decisions, and the second is for editors and reviewers, okay? And so we would give you the code to go into Enterprise Analytic Reports or Cognos, and you just literally set these up again one time. That's all you have to do. Set them up one time, code them in one time, and we can help you with that even if this is problematic. And then all you do is every time you need new data, you just go run the report, get a CSV file, and then you take that CSV file over to Origin Reports, upload it, and then immediately you can start generating. Like literally, the next step could be, tell me how many submissions I've had this year, push the button, it's there. That's how fast it is. Ideally, maybe one day there'll be a live feed, so that's something we're looking into, so that you don't even need to go into your system anymore. You literally go to Origin Reports and call for the data. Okay, so it launched in 2021. Some of you may have seen us present this at ISMTE. We won the ISMTE Innovation Award in 2020 in the earlier version, and then Sherry herself won the award this year from ISMTE for her innovative techniques that she's done here with reporting. We have initially provided Editorial Manager and Scholar One. EJP is coming in early 2022. So, if that was a question I just anticipated, then I can reassure you it's coming. We're already working, as we talked to EJP, it's on its way. You can sign up to trial and test with some fake data. We already have a data set there, so if you want to have a play with any of the reports, you can do that with the fake data, and it's at originreports.org. I will mention now, but again, confirm to you at the end that after this call, we will be working with ISMTE to get the details. And then if you want, you can have 2 months of free access to Origin Reports, which is going to be brilliant for all your year-end reporting. So you can go in, have a play with it now, set all the parameters for your reports, wait for January 1 to roll around, and then download those 2 extraction reports and start playing with the data. We have some showcase videos as well on our YouTube channel, which is, you can look it up just by going Origin Editorial Reports in your YouTube search engine. So I'm going to stop talking, and you're going to see a short presentation, which is mostly Sherry and myself just going through what Origin Reports can do.
The first thing we're going to do today is create a submissions chart. In the editorial office, we're asked to do this quite often, so it's something good to get started with. We'll pick our submission system, then we're going to select the kind of chart we want to create. We will now upload our data. This is the CSV file that we extracted from Editorial Manager in this case. We're going to use our initial date submitted as our reference date. We can create the chart in a number of different ways, but to begin, we're just going to use our quick chart. So I'm going to select Simple Bar Chart, and just that fast, we have our submissions chart. We can now customize it through the Format Chart menu. We can edit and customize the chart titles, the chart axes. We can add bar totals. We can also change the color of the bars. In the parameters section, you'll see all of the attributes of our charts. We're going to talk more about this in a few minutes. And we can also download a version of our chart. So we can choose to download the chart as a PNG or PDF. For right now, I'm going to download it as a PNG file. And you can see our download looks exactly like what we had on our screen. So why don't we create a new type of chart now? We'll hit the back button and start again. The next thing we want to do is show submissions by country. Our map chart is a great way to do this. This chart is excellent to use during meetings. It's interactive, so as you hover over the countries, you get more information about them. The countries are color-coded according to the number of submissions you receive from that country. You can also do the same thing by hovering over the table, and that also highlights the country of interest. To get a little more information about a particular country, we can actually select it from the table, and then we will get a 4-year chart showing the submission volume. If you choose, you can choose to add a % change line. Another thing we can do is change the type of chart that we're using. So looking at the exact same data, submissions by country, we can scroll down below our chart and select a different way to view this data. For right now, I'm going to select a donut chart. We can customize the donut chart as well using the Format Chart menu. I'm going to add totals, and I'm also going to change the sort. Right now, the legend is sorted from A to Z, but I'm going to choose to sort my donut by descending segments, so the largest segments are first and the smallest are at the end. And you'll notice that the legend changes the sort as well so that it matches the information on our chart. We can also show this information on a table, and the table columns also have sort buttons. Tables can be downloaded as PNGs or PDFs or CSVs. So you can actually download the information as a CSV and take it into something like Excel and continue to work with the data if you wish. I'm going to show a simple bar chart, and I'm going to show you how we can dig a little deeper into our data. So again, this is our submission data by country, but I can add a third variable which gives me information in the legend. So here I've now divided the bars into segments showing the different manuscript types we receive from each country. As we hover over each bar, you see that we get information about each segment. We can see the legend information as well as the count for that segment. Now that we're back on the main menu, we can start a new chart.
Okay, so I'm just going to jump in here and present a scenario, actually, perhaps one that you all will relate to. So imagine you're in an editorial board meeting and you've just presented some of those charts that Sherry has shown us. You maybe have showed the total number of submissions, and somebody asked the question, okay, this is great, but how many research submissions do we receive from China? I noticed the number of submissions from China has increased. Well, with Origin Reports, you could actually do that live there and then instead of saying, I'll get back to you after this meeting. So let's take it away and have a look at how Sherry would answer that question in real time.
So we can show that data in a couple different ways. The first way I'm going to show you is using one of our tables. Here I'm going to select a table, and then I'm going to use the filters to narrow down the data shown on the table. So the first thing I want to do is select research articles, and then I'm going to select China as the country. You can see in the parameters section, we are now including only research articles and submissions from China. So let's go back to the start screen and show the same information in another way. This time let's use the map chart. So what we want to do is, again, to only include research articles. We're already showing information from the different countries, so this shows research articles from China and how that compares to research articles submitted by other countries. So let's go back, and I'm going to show you a third way that we can look at the same data. This time we're going to use our variables. I'll pick time period for my x-axis, and I want to dive deeper by looking at manuscript types. I'm not going to narrow the manuscript types this time. Instead, I'm just going to narrow it by country. So we now have a chart that shows submissions from China and all different manuscript types. And let's do a little formatting. I'm going to change my title so that it makes it really clear. That's what I'm looking at, submissions from China. And let's go, we're going to add bar totals to this. You can see I can also give totals for the different segments. I can use values or percentages or both. For right now, I'm just going to show percentages. I am also going to resort my bars. I would like to do a descending sort on my bars. Currently, they're organized alphabetically by the information in the legend, By doing a descending sort, it puts the largest totals closest to the x-axis. And you'll see that in 2020, the submissions from China had more case reports than research articles, as opposed to the previous years. We've now shown you 3 different ways that you can look at the same information depending on what aspects of the data are important to you. So let's go back. We've spent quite a bit of time looking at submissions, but now let's change our focus a little bit and look at initial decisions. This is another aspect of the data that people in editorial offices are often asked to report on. We can look at initial decisions by selecting a different chart type. I want to draw your attention to this question. There are times when you're working on a journal that you have submissions that get an initial decision of accept or reject, but did not go through peer review. If you want to be able to group them in with your immediate accept or immediate reject decisions, this question allows you to have control over that. For right now, we're going to go ahead and select yes, and yes, we want to group all of that in with our immediate decisions. So we're going to look at the data in a decision tree, and I'm going to select just a single year. All of my submissions appear in the blue box at the top. So I had 142 submissions. 49 or 35% of those were immediately rejected, and I had no immediate accepts. The remaining 93 or 65% of the 142 went through peer review. The manuscripts that went through peer review, another 25% of those were rejected. The rest received either a revise or an accept decision. So the information in the boxes shows your immediate reject percentage. It also shows your percent rejected after peer review. But we also include the overall rejection rate. So to get that number, we take the number of manuscripts that were immediately rejected and we add it to the number that were rejected after peer review and divide it by all submissions received, and you see that we get an overall rejection rate of 51%. So let's look at our time to initial decision. We want to include the manuscripts that got an accept or reject decision but did not go through peer review in with our immediate accepts and immediate rejects. So we're going to do that here with our questions, and we're going to use quick charts and our line chart and jump right in. The data that you're seeing now is the time taken to get to initial decision, and that includes all of our immediate decisions. But let's exclude the immediate decisions so we can get a more accurate view of how long it actually takes something to go through peer review. And now I'm going to show you another way that we can control our date range. Here I'm going to change it so that we are only showing 3 years. And I have a feature that's a lock parameter, so I'm going to lock that. And from this point forward, if I were to create additional charts, it would show the 3 years, and I wouldn't have to keep resetting that.
So when you extract data from your submission system, there are 2 types of files that we currently need to download. One is for submissions and decisions. The second is for reviewers and editors. So we're going to take a look at some editor and reviewer charts, and so this is a good opportunity for me to present a second scenario, which Sherry will then demonstrate. In this particular case, you might get asked by your editor-in-chief, how is my team of associate editors or editorial board members performing? And what we're going to look at is various graphical and tabular ways that you can provide that information.
Anytime I'm talking about editors and reviewers, I need to make sure I'm working off of that CSV file. So here are my options for the editor and reviewer CSV. I'm going to go ahead and just drop in my file. And again, that was, we got that file from the extraction report in our submission system. One of our best charts to understand editor performance is the editor rejection rate bubble chart. This chart shows a lot of different pieces of information all at once. Right now it's pretty busy, so we're going to use our filters to narrow that down a little bit. I'm going to start with editor roles. I'll select just associate editors. Now, the information provided in your filter comes directly from your CSV file. The one that I'm working off of is just an anonymous demo CSV that we use, and so we only have 4 editor roles. But however many editor roles you actually have for your journal would show up in this filter. I'm going to pretend that I am looking at only our current editors, so I'm just going to select some. So in this case, you might want to select your editors and not include outgoing editors or not include guest editors or whatever. But once we've kind of selected these editors, we've narrowed down the field quite a bit, and it's much easier to interpret the chart. Let's go to the Format Chart menu, and we're going to adjust some of our colors to make it a little easier to distinguish between some of our editors. Just going to make some quick changes here. So now that we have set the colors, let's take some time to interpret this. If we look on the y-axis, you're going to see the rejection rate, and you can tell that Myers and Santos have the highest rejection rate, while Devi and Jing and Chen reject at a lower rate. Looking at the x-axis, we can also see the speed at which our editors are reaching their initial decisions. So Myers is obviously the fastest on this chart, while Jones and Peters are much slower. The size of the bubble also helps us to understand their workload. So the largest bubbles, which are Johnson and Devi and Santos, they received the most assignments, while Peters and Jing, having smaller bubbles, obviously received fewer assignments. You can also see the specifics for all of this information on the table to the right of the chart.
Okay, I'm going to interject for the final time to present a third scenario. I think most journals have experienced the phenomenon of it being increasingly hard to find reviewers. So let's try and find a way to measure that. And the most obvious way to do that is to look at the conversion statistic, which is looking at the total number of review invitations sent out and the total agreements to review. And we have a very simple chart that will show you that performance of a journal over time.
We have several different reviewer charts. One that we really like is the invited to agreed conversion rate. So we're going to jump right in using our quick chart. So this chart is giving us information about the ratio between the number of people we invited and the number who actually agreed, the number of reviewers who actually agreed to review for us. We can make adjustments to this chart, such as color and other things. I'm going to change it really quick so I can show you another feature, and that is save to MyCharts. So once you create something you really like, you can actually save it to use in the future. So if I click Save to MyCharts, I can choose to give it a title or not. For today, I'm just going to call it Demo so we can recognize it, and I'm going to go ahead and save that. I can also add it directly to a custom report. So I will click the Add to Report button, and this allows me to pick either create a new custom report or pick one that I've been building, and here I'm just going to pick this custom report. On the far left hand side, you'll see the My Charts, and the menu to the left represents all the different sections of Origin Reports. So you just go down, find the section where you created your chart, and when I click on Invited to Agree Conversion Rate, you can see the purple chart that we just created. Let's go over to My Reports. Also, the icon is on the far left. This is the section where I have my standard reports and I can build my custom reports. The The custom reports, I can build them, and then in future I can just come in and drop updated CSV files and recreate them. Takes just a matter of moments to have an entire report updated. We were adding a chart to this report earlier, so let's just go to the bottom of the report. You can see they always come in at the bottom, but we have a drag and drop feature, so I can pick it up and move the chart anywhere I need it to go. I can further customize the report by adding in the acronym for my journal. This helps you if you're supporting multiple journals. So here I'm just going to call it AAA and include the acronym. And now you can see that acronym, the journal acronym, is included in the titles for all of my charts that I have saved into this report. So let's take just a minute and look at one of our standard reports. These are reports that have been designed by editorial office reporting experts. You can see that we have a variety of charts that are already pre-loaded in there. So all you need to do is drop in your particular data set and then hit generate. You can generate your report as a PDF, a PowerPoint, or a zip file, which is just a collection of images. I'm going to download it as a PDF. You'll see this little message telling you that you will receive an email when your report's ready, and you can simply click on that link to see your completed report. Here I'm going to open up our PowerPoint file, and you're going to see that each chart comes in as its own individual slide, and this allows you to have control over all of your data and build the editorial report that you need. So whether you want to design your own custom report with charts of your choosing or use one of our standard reports, MyReports section makes it extremely easy to get your editorial board report created. Let's go back to the start screen, talk about some of the stuff you will find there. We do have a fairly extensive help library, and we are continuing to build it all the time. You can use the links to jump right into the help library and get more detailed information about features within Origin reports. Articles on how to customize your charts are also educational articles on how to interpret your charts. On the start screen, you will also find links to our blog post, which has additional educational articles, and links to our past webinars for more information on editorial office reporting. We also have a chat feature, which allows you to connect with us directly. You can either use it to search for items in the Help Center, and it will take you directly to articles on the item that you have questions about. Or you can send us a message. You can contact us about anything that you are having difficulty with, and we will either communicate with you by email, or we can set up a Zoom meeting if that works better for you. So we are really here just to try to make your editorial office reporting easier and to try to give you as much help as we can, and hopefully turn this into a process that you come to enjoy and you look forward to looking at your data and interpreting it rather than dreading it and just trying to get it ready for your editorial board report. We invite you to go to originreports.org and try out our demo. There's already data loaded into our demo, so you can kind of play around with different things. Everyone who attended today's webinar actually gets 2 months of free access to Origin Reports. You should be receiving an email soon giving you information on how to get that set up. We hope you found today's webinar informative, and we look forward to your questions.
Okay, thanks everyone for sitting through that. So we're going to take some questions from you, but there have been a couple in the chat already, and Sherry in a moment is going to demonstrate the CSV file, the extraction file that you get. While she's getting herself set up, let me just answer a couple of questions that came to me privately. I had 2 on EJP. So Sherry is, I can assure you, Sherry is busy working on EJP reports right now. She's figuring out how best to get the data to sync up with the charts that we've already built. So so far so good. So I don't think it will be too long into 2022 before we can offer that to any EJP users. We're highly motivated because it turns out that probably about half the Origin staff actually use EJP. So yeah, rest assured that we're working to get that done as soon as possible. A second question was about the price. So the price is, this is going to be a tough number to remember. It's $99.99 US, $99.99 for 1 year. If there's a much larger contract, so beyond multiple journals, we're talking about a publisher or society with many publications, there is a different price. But again, if you go to originreports.org, it's all at the bottom of the page there on the pricing. It's affordable because we know that in some cases you're probably going to be paying for it out of your own pocket. If you're not, if you have to get that as a billable expense, I think $99 is an easy sell. But just maybe monetize how many hours you might be saving and figure out how much that's worth to you. So there is a question about the price. Maybe I'll just quickly share my screen just to show you the Origin Reports page, which I believe you can see. So if I just go down to the bottom here to answer that question. So here, it's a monthly fee if you want to go down that route. If you just want to use it for a month, you can buy it for a month. However, so $99.99 for up to 10 journals and 1 user. Okay, so we know that some of you, this is what I was for many years, was I had 4 or 5 journals that I worked on at one time. So if that's you, and you do those as independent contractors, then yes, you could have all 5 because you're just that 1 user. So $99 for 5 journals. I think that's pretty reasonable. Okay, so I had one other question that came to me directly, and it was about the custom reports. So again, just so that you understand this, the extraction report, which Sherry's going to show you in a second, is something that's programmed into EM, into Scholar One, into eventually eJournal Press. You program that one time only, much like you'd program any other report into those systems. But going forward, once you've done that, so let's say you did that last year and you're ready to run your 2021 data on January 1, all you do is you go in to EM, Scholar One, EJP, you will click, you go to that report, just run it. So you've got all the data from 2021, hit download as CSV, go over to Origin Reports, hit upload, and the data's in the system, and now we're ready to play with it. That's literally how it works. So Sherry.
So I can show really quickly what it would look like in Editorial Manager. So let me do that really quick. So you have a number of tables that you set up, fields that you select, and then we apply some filters, and the output looks like this. So it looks like just a regular spreadsheet like you would bring into Excel, something like that. Now, we do have a couple of different ways that we can help you build your extraction reports. We have pretty step-by-step PDF that actually has screenshots, and it's very specific about how to set that up. We have a series of videos that are in edit right now and should be done hopefully by the end of next week. So you could access the video and go through it that way. If you prefer, you can actually set up a private Zoom session with me, and I'm happy to walk you through it. Our goal is to not let getting your extraction reports be a barrier for you.
Okay. Happy to take any other questions, any verbal questions. keep an eye on the chat as well. So one of the things that we will also do is update with you on a regular basis once you sign up on new charts that are added. So we are covering all the basics, all the things that we think that you would need to use. And we have over 100 journals. I've been doing this job for 20 years. My passion is editorial office reporting, as some of you know. We've conceived of so many things. We think we've got a lot of the bases covered. What we're looking to do is add even greater depth and granularity, and add some more statistical power to them. I know that some of you, you present, and then the editor says, "Okay, but what's the standard deviation here?" And you might not know what that is. So we're going to just help you generate that.
We are expecting to add a lot more stats in early to mid 2022. We do have one box chart that's come in. I can show that really quick if you want. Let's see.
Yeah, if you could, Sherry. Just to mention as well that the system, you probably saw when Sherry was coding, using the filters, and it said like immediate decision types, and it listed them all. Those aren't pre-programmed by us. It reads whatever you call them. So, whatever you decided to call them is what the system will pull out, okay? And then you just filter on that. So we aren't, shoehorning you into what we think it should be called, okay? So while
just 1 second.
Yeah, so while
reload.
getting set up, I'd just like to answer another question that just came in, which is about cross-journal reporting. So we are actually working on that right now because we have a client ourselves who wants to do that. And cross-journal reporting would be, let's say you have 5 journals and you want to have a table that shows total submissions in 2021 for each of those journals. So rather than running 5 reports, you will be able to just run 1 report. There is cross-journal reporting in one of the systems. One of the other systems does not have that right now. However, we're also looking at solutions for where that's not possible, so that the system would just temporarily store the data to build the chart and then output that. That's something we're looking at. But either way, you can do cross-journal reporting if you're in a system that can handle that.
Yeah, we'll be bringing that in.
I just want to mention briefly, because I just said it, we do not store your data. I can't stress that enough. So we can't see your data even. So there's all we store in the system are the parameters. So if you created one of those reports that Sherry showed near the end, so that you can just use it every time, you programmed it, so you to just run it the exact same way every time you want it to run. That's all that's stored in the system, the parameters. The second that you log out, the data is out of the system, it's gone. If you were using the editor and reviewer database, the extraction file for that, and then switched over to submissions and decisions, all the editor and reviewer stuff is removed from the system. We do not hold it in the system. Okay, Sherry.
Okay, so sorry, it kind of locked up slightly, I think, from showing the video. But let's come over here. So the box chart is part of our time to complete an individual review. I'm just going to jump in using a quick chart. And you can see I can change between my different chart types at the bottom. Here, show the box and whiskers. So you'll see a lot more box and whiskers coming in this year. That gives you not only this note, this is the same data as here, it's just displayed differently. It gives you a little bit more depth of information. Another person asked earlier about the parameters. The parameters are the filters that we have on the side. So these are things that you can adjust. So if you wanted to say, only show this chart for your case reports, it is noted on your parameter chart. So this helps you going forward. you won't look at a chart 2 years from now and think, why is this data so different from the data that we have now? You can actually look in this parameter section and see what's included or what's excluded. It helps you to use the data going forward. A lot of times we say, you should not use historical data, especially if you didn't produce it. It's hard to know what they might have included or excluded. So the parameter section, anything that you pick through these filters on the side will show up on your parameters section.
So talking about historical comparisons there is, I'm glad you brought that up, Sherry, because when we were prototyping this and we would go to a couple of our clients and say, well, these numbers are close, but they don't exactly match what we had before. So we've delved into that, and here's a couple of things that we find is that, one, exactly what Sherry just said, somewhere along the way, someone did something funky with the data. They just maybe knew that those 5 papers over there, I know are a special thing that happened. It's a one-time only thing. I'll exclude them from my column total. Okay, so they did that, but then never wrote it down, and that information is gone. And so when we come along and you run something and it's showing, well, why are we out by 5 from this 2011 data? That's often the reason why. Why do we know that that's a problem? Because frankly, I was doing this myself and I would make notes and then I'd forgotten why I'd done what I'd done. And then I ran historic data and I go, I can't, and that's what I figured out, is that's some of the trickery I've been doing over the years. It's I've been massaging the data for special occasions. We know that one of the systems has a slight glitch in it, and that if somebody has lists 2 institutions on when they submit, one of them is in, say, Canada, where I am, and one of them's in the US, then sometimes that lists as 2 submissions in the raw data, which I never knew. I've been using that system for 10 years before I actually discovered that was a problem. And so I've probably been overcounting some things for a long time. So you get little, weird things like that. Usually it's because something was changed and never noted. The third thing is, and if you've ever been to any of the sessions that I've done at these meetings, I would say that if 100 of us were asked to report on something as simple as how many submissions were there last year, we'd all come up with 100 different ways of doing it. It's how you frame the question. And, so literally, when is something submitted? That actually is not as obvious as you think, because sometimes it's the moment that the editorial office receives it. Sometimes it's actually counted as the moment that the editorial office has checked it in. What do you do with manuscripts that were submitted but immediately sent back to the authors and then never returned to you? Now, that doesn't mean to say that there's a right way and there's a wrong way. There's just your way of reporting. So one of the things that you might want to do if you go in and use the system is actually do some historic reporting. If you can do that, go all the way back and just run it again. And then what you're doing then is at least you're making a fair comparison with what you're doing now in Origin Reports and what Origin Reports is looking at historically. It's the same comparison, as opposed to what your predecessor maybe did back in 2006, and nobody has a clue what they were up to at that point, or what they included, what they excluded.
I did have one other thing I wanted to show that we didn't show in the video. So I'm just going to share my screen again for just a minute. So one thing that has come up for me in the past, and it's probably come up for other people as well, having different types of decisions, but wanting to group them all together. So let's say we want to group all of our reject type decisions together. So I'm going to look at an initial decision chart. This is the modal that we talked about in the video. And again, I'm just going to select yes, putting all of those submissions that got an accept or reject decision at initial decision, but didn't go through peer review. So now they're all kind of lumped in with our initial decisions. And I'm going to come down. I'm just going to pick time period and decision types. So here, let's just kind of put some information on, and I'm going to resort it. It's just personal preference. I just like descending sort. But what I want to do, I'm going to come down here to this initial decisions, and I want to group all of my reject type decisions together. So I'm going to pick immediate reject, reject, reject on great language grounds. And I'm going to hit this group select, and then I'm just going to type in reject. So, and then we'll save that. So now you can see I have rejects. We're going to add in the other decision types. So now I've managed to create a chart that groups all of my reject type decisions. Another thing that I can do, and this comes up in all sorts of ways. Do you see this longer title? So it doesn't really match my other titles. It all depends on how things were set up in your system, but sometimes different people set things up. So I can come here and I can edit the title of anything from my filters. So I'm just going to come over here and just change this to minor revision instead. And you'll see that that gets updated on my title. So things that I've had this come up with, and sometimes it's in section category or sometimes it comes in as article type or whatever, especially with special issues, they will make really long titles for things. And when that gets put on the charts, it makes everything look kind of busy and cluttered. So you can either rename your special issue to something a lot shorter so it looks nicer on the chart, or you could group all of your special issues together and make that a category, a single category. So there's a lot of different uses for this. It's a lot of times that this comes up every once in a while. Something will be put into some of the systems and it'll have something very basic like a apostrophe. And when it gets exported, that character comes out odd. It gets extra little characters put in that. So if that happens, you could go in and kind of clean that up. So this is all trying to give you more ways to take control of your data and to make your charts look exactly like you want them to look and have a really nice quality.
One of the things that I saw there was a little padlock on the side there, and if you wonder what that's all about, if you want to lock in your date parameters, so let's say you've downloaded all your data, 10 years worth of data, whatever, and you decide actually I only want to look at 2016 to 2021, you could just enter the date parameters there, but you can see the little padlock up there. And so once you've done that, you can just lock that in, and then when you go to generate the next report, you've saved those date parameters. It's the same with the other filters there for article types, whatever. So, so again, we're just trying to simplify things for you. I know probably the biggest thing that I struggle with in Excel is kind of what Sherry was just showing a moment ago. For instance, at the journal Headache that I work at, there's 3 different types of case reports. And it's so annoying when somebody says, well, can you just, how would it look if case reports weren't there? And then in Excel, I've now got to go through and remove these 3 different case reports. But then they want to report back on that as well, as one lump. So the beauty of this is I can literally just group them together and it's all done for me in a second or 2. And then I can exclude them, I can do whatever I want with them. Okay, so we're heading towards the top of the hour. Are there any more questions?
And we will be contacting you to give you information about how to sign up for Origin for your free 2 months of Origin reports. You will also, during that process, will try to find out what submission system you're working with and get you the information on setting up your extraction reports for that submission system. And I am also available to do kind of live help sessions via Zoom. So if you are feeling uncomfortable, I'm happy to walk through things with you. Also, if you're trying to set up a particular type of chart and you're having difficulty, I can go in and help you determine the best way we can get to that information. You can schedule that. You can request a live help session through the chat feature in Origin Reports. That's the little green circle in the lower right-hand corner.
Yeah, so originreports.org, originreports.org. And again, if you've come along today and your system is ready to use this system of ours, then you have those 2 free months. So we will work with you on that. Okay, a big thank you to you all for coming along today, and again, happy to answer any questions that you may have later. Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.